Grand Prix year of 1982 began in South Africa, where Johannesburg has recently grown some medium-sized skyscrapers and one very beautiful motor racing circuit about 20 miles out of town. It's called Kyalami and was just made for cars to go fast on. But for some time they didn't go at all because of a strike. For various reasons, there are few strikes in South Africa, but the drivers had brought one with them. Protesting against the terms of their licenses, the drivers, led by Didier Peroni, barricaded themselves into a hotel and refused to come out, leaving their team managers facing the possibility of having to drive the cars personally. Bernie Eccleston, head of the Brabham team and also Mr. Fix of Formula One, wore all his hats simultaneously while having his usual word in somebody's ear. But the all-powerful Jean-Marie Balestre, evincing his usual charm, remained obdurate.
Any comment, Mr. Balestre?
Practice was cancelled. Except for the odd bit of pushing them backwards and forwards to see if the wheels still worked, the cars just sat there with patient mechanics putting funny signs on them. There would have been time to do proper illuminated manuscripts if they'd had the parchment and gold leaf. Not much moved in the pit area, except the usual young idealist dreaming of a chivalrous sport in which shining knights of the road joust with no thought of gain. Bernie went on having a word in somebody's ear, and eventually somebody realized that the waiting world wasn't interested in watching the cars stay still. Mr. Balestre gave his assurance that if the drivers came out of the hotel with their hands up, they would suffer no harm. They believed him, and out they came. One of them was the new world champion. One of them was an old world champion back from the fiery furnace. One of them deserved to be world champion, but didn't yet know that he never would be. If he had known, it would probably not have stopped him. He was brave. They were brave men all. They were the idols of millions, but only on the understanding that when the day came, they had to race, no matter what. So the engines came to life, and the Grand Prix year along with them. The Renaults, Ferraris and Brabhams led away on the warm-up lap, thereby stating the big theme of the season. The turbo cars went fast, especially at altitude, but except for the Ferraris, they tended not to get there. The Cosworth engine cars got there, but tended not to go fast. It was up to the turbos to be more reliable and the Cosworth to go more quickly. It would have been easy for the Cosworth cars to do this if the minimum weight limit had not been set so high by the rules, which somehow always tended to favor the turbo cars, thus inspiring the Cosworth team designers to various wheezes and devices. The chief wheeze and device for this year was water-cooled brakes. The car plus water got weighed by the scrutineers, and the car minus water started the race, hence lowering the weight and increasing the speed. Nobody believes it to be a good thing that serious designers, most of them grown men, should spend half their time dreaming up ways to bend the rules, but nobody knows how to stop it. Everybody knows it's madness, but it still goes on. The similarities between Formula One and World War I are striking to the detached observer, but no one can stay detached once the green light shines. Away they went with the 6 turbo cars in the lead, 2 Renaults, 2 Ferraris, 2 Brabhams. They were aided by the altitude, but would probably have been doing the same thing at sea level. The turbo teams looked magisterial, as if they were enjoying one of the big technical advantages which periodically divide the sport into 2 groups, those who got it and those who haven't. The turbo engine was the biggest thing since the ground effect, since the engine in the back, since the detachable cylinder head, since the inflatable tire. And out in front, even of the other turbos, ran the haughty Renaults, like Hode and Rosewall painted yellow. PK's sick Brabham BMW tried to go through a small hill instead of the long way round by road. For the reigning world champion, it was the portent of a frustrating year, but at the time it must have seemed only a temporary setback. More philosophical than angry, Piquet took the first of what were destined to be several long walks, but there were still 5 turbos left at the front. There were 4 turbos left at the front after Villeneuve's Ferrari turned into a locomotive, but 2 of them were still the Renaults, with Prost leading Arnoux. The Renaults look very impressive touring around together, like Fangio and Moss or Flanagan and Allen. But Arnoux led Prost after Prost's car turned into a tricycle. His front right wheel went up because his rear left had converted itself into an old wetsuit in a tumble dryer. It gave you some idea of how hard the cars are sprung. Someone should invent independent suspension and give the driver's battered bones a rest. Prost went in for a new wheel, presumably happy in the knowledge that his beloved teammate Arnoux was pulling away towards maximum points. Out on some obscure part of the circuit where cameras couldn't reach, Carlos Reutemann in his Cosworth-engined Williams inherited second place. The moody Carlos had decided that the turbos were vincible after all. With Carlos, an awful lot depends on his mood. If he feels like winning, he goes like the Argentine Air Force. If he feels unhappy, he fades away like the Argentine Army. Pironi's Ferrari conked out expensively. Prost was back on the track and pulling back what fate had taken away. Prost came right past everybody, giving us all the idea that the Renaults were going to do that every time. The remaining big news was that Niki Lauda, in his first race back from retirement, had quietly contrived to come fourth. But from him a miracle is the least you expect, so somehow this fact was not sensational, merely satisfactory. It was the turbos that were sensational, and especially the Renaults, and especially Prost, the winner. For ordinary engines, the writing was on the wall, and it was in French. If you were normally aspirated, you were short of breath. Get blown or get lost, that was the message. To rub it home, Balestri busted the striking drivers after all.